People with bad teacher, what's your story?
Everyone in our school knew about Mrs. Hawkins. She was the teacher from hell, the one you dreaded seeing on your schedule. She treated us like we were less than dirt. No one could drink water in her class, and God forbid you needed to go to the restroom. We all hated her guts. It started on the first day of school. Mrs. Hawkins stormed into the classroom, her face set in a permanent scowl. "Sit down and shut up," she barked. We all scrambled to our seats, hoping not to draw her ire. "I don't tolerate nonsense in my class. If you think you can get away with anything, you're dead wrong." "Fuck you," I muttered under my breath, but apparently not quietly enough. Her eyes zeroed in on me like a hawk spotting a mouse. "What did you say?" she snapped, striding over to my desk. "Nothing," I replied, staring straight ahead. "That's what I thought," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "Now, everyone take out your textbooks. We're diving straight into Chapter 1. The next few weeks were pure hell. Mrs. Hawkins had a knack for making everyone miserable. She'd pick on the quiet kids, mocking them for their shyness, and she'd go after the outspoken ones, trying to break their spirits. It was like she got off on our suffering point one day. Sarah, a girl who never caused any trouble, raised her hand timidly. "Mrs. Hawkins, may I go to the restroom, please?" Mrs. Hawkins sneered. "No, you may not. You should have gone during the break." Sarah's face turned bright red, and she sank back into her seat, humiliated. It wasn't the first time this happened, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. Mrs. Hawkins had some twisted pleasure in denying us basic needs. If someone dared to bring a water bottle to class, she'd snatch it away and dump the contents in the trash. "I can't stand that bitch," my friend Jake said during lunch one day. "She acts like we're her personal punching bags." Seriously, I agreed. Someone needs to put her in her place. As the weeks went on, our hatred for Mrs. Hawkins only grew. She seemed to come up with new ways to torment us daily. One time, she assigned a massive project with a deadline so tight that it was nearly impossible to complete. When most of us struggled to finish, she berated us for being lazy and incompetent. "Are you all fucking idiots?" she screamed one day after collecting our projects. "This is pathetic. You better shape up, or you're going to fail this class." We were all fed up, and it was time to fight back. We started planning small acts of rebellion. It began with simple things: turning in our homework late, talking back, and openly defying her ridiculous rules. "Fuck you, Mrs. Hawkins," Jake shouted one day when she refused to let him go to the restroom. "I'm not a fucking robot. I need to pee." Her face turned an alarming shade of purple. "Get out of my classroom," she screeched. "You're suspended." Jake grabbed his stuff and stormed out, flipping her off as he went. We all cheered silently, loving the sight of her losing control. The final straw came when she introduced her new punishment, the silent treatment. If anyone spoke out of turn, she would make them stand in front of the class and remain silent for the entire period. It was humiliating and dehumanizing. Fuck this, I thought. It was time to take things to the next level. We organized a full-on revolt. We planned it meticulously, making sure everyone was on board. The day of the rebellion, we all showed up to class with water bottles, smirking as we took deliberate sips in front of her. Mrs. Hawkins' face contorted with rage. "Put those away," she shrieked. "Now." "Fuck you," we all said in unison, raising our bottles in a mock toast. She lost it, completely and utterly. Her shrill screams filled the room as she tried to confiscate our water bottles. We resisted, laughing and taunting her. "This is your last warning," she screamed, her voice cracking. "I will have you all expelled." "Good luck with that," I said, standing up. "Maybe if you weren't such a tyrant, we wouldn't have to resort to this." That did it. She stormed out of the classroom, slamming the door behind her. We could hear her yelling in the hallway, probably at some poor administrator. By the end of the week, word got around that Mrs. Hawkins had quit. Apparently, our rebellion was the final straw for her. Good riddance, we thought. We threw a little celebration, feeling triumphant and free for the first time in months. The new teacher, Mr. Anderson, was a breath of fresh air. He treated us like human beings, respected our needs, and made learning enjoyable again. We couldn't believe the difference. Looking back, I almost felt sorry for Mrs. Hawkins. Almost. But in the end, she brought it on herself. Treat people like shit, and they'll eventually rise up against you. That's just how it works. And to Mrs. Hawkins, wherever you are, fuck you.